Let's let them all in. In they come. In come the hordes of tenors and basses. In come the horde of tenors and basses. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hello, Frank. Hello, Lorna. Hello, Martin. Hello, Nigel. Hello, Dave. Hello, Thomas. Hello, Deb. Hello, Wolfram. Hello, David. Oh, there's lots of Davids and Daves again. It's one of those days. Hello to all of the Daves, Davies, and Davids. Welcome. Good to see you all. Hello, Arthur. Hello, Mike. Hello, Gail. Hello, Gunnar. Hello, Ingrid. Hello, Kay, Ken, Henry, Patricia, Andrew, Hugh, and Martine. Mike. There's a few Mikes. Hello, all Mikes. Only two. Dick. Hello, Keith. Hello, Cynthia. That's most people for now. I'm going to keep hitting that admit all button. Welcome, tenors and basses. I love that background, George. I like the black and white. It's very dramatic for quite a silly photo. I love it. Brilliant. Arthur, is that a photo of yours? Is that somewhere nearby to you?
No, it's where my house is named after. It's on Loch Lomond side.
Oh,
it was the one that I bookended. I sent you the video for Caledonia, and I bookended those pictures at the end for you.
Yes, I thought that rang a bell, and I've seen that somewhere. Either I've asked you in a session or I've seen it.
It's a place called Rowerdennan on Loch Lomond side.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. My entire family is Scottish, and I'm afraid I'm the world's worst Scotsman. I neither have the accent or the kilt, or have been more than twice in my life. It's very embarrassing, but let's not talk about that now. It's lovely to have you all here. Good to see you, tenors and basses. As we know, the best half of the choir. I don't always say that to the sopranos and altos, I promise. But good to have you here. Give us a wave if this is your first home choir project. Do we have any newbies in the room? Anyone who's joined for this project and hasn't yet taken part until now? I think we've got lots of veterans, haven't we? Brilliant. It looks like it. I'm going to keep hitting that admit all button, and then in a couple of minutes we'll get going. But tenors and basses, welcome to the sectional. We're working on the Miserere this week. This is our chance to really get into that piece. What a complicated piece it is. Give me just by way of singular jazz hand, please, if you've sung this before. Good. Okay, a nice handful of people, and a good handful of people who don't know it, who haven't performed it before. That's what I like to hear. Great to know. So those of you that are familiar with this as well, you'll recognize some of the stuff that I talk about. But I'm going to start while I just wait for a few people. The chat is open. The tenors and basses tends to be a little more civilized. They don't tell the other half of the choir that I say that. But I'll try and leave the chat open for most of the session, but the usual caveat applies. Please bear in mind this is a rehearsal, so don't just spam a load of stuff into it, because some people do find it a little distracting. But do put your questions or any thoughts or anything that you're not clear on, or anything that I'm not clear on, in the chat, and I'll make sure that I try and come to as much of that as I possibly can. Miserere, what a piece. I think the first piece of Renaissance work that we've done. Rather amazing piece. There's some fantastic history and myths surrounding this. Now, the one myth that I'm sure lots of you will have heard is that Mozart saw a performance of this in the Sistine Chapel once, and publishing this music was on pain of excommunication from the church. But Mozart was thought to be such an amazing musician, which of course he was, that he went in, listened to it once, and transcribed the whole thing by ear and had his own copy. Unfortunately, that is a myth, though it's a rather good story. So I like to think it's true nonetheless. But this, of course, was performed in many, many guises at the Sistine Chapel. Allegri actually wrote, it was very simple, and Graham brought this up in his rehearsal. Those of you that have already seen his, I recommend you do go and check his rehearsal out. It's always good to have a few different approaches. But he mentioned the 16's Miserere Evolution, which I highly recommend you checking out. It, rather than being one set edition of this piece all the way through, the 16s start with the very simple version, which didn't contain the top C for some time. And in the same way that the singers in the Sistine Chapel began to sing it in a more florid way, they began to ornament things, they began to change things, and the piece evolved. they show the evolution of the Miserere in this recording. So do spend a little bit of time on YouTube searching this after this rehearsal. The 16 Miserere Evolution. It's available online. You'll be able to listen, and it's amazing because you can hear every different version of this piece in one recording. It's really quite something. So let's start, please. Before we go to the music, we'll do our usual warm up. So join me if you're able, standing up. If you can't stand for whatever reason, make sure you're sat comfortably. Please, as always, change any of these warm-ups as you need. You know your body far better than I ever will. So please do use these warm-ups as an opportunity to warm up your own body. You're not doing a warm-up for me, you're doing a warm-up for yourself. So to begin with, my favorite one, I'll try not to move too quickly so we don't get too sweaty. It's boiling hot here and I have no form of fan in my room. So reaching up nice and slowly. Lovely. Keep breathing as you do so. Lovely. And over to one side. Keep breathing and take your opposite hand and just put it on your side and be aware of the expansion and the stretch as you breathe. If any of this is uncomfortable, reduce the intensity as you need. That's absolutely fine, but keep breathing. Just hang out here for a little bit. Couple of nice breaths. Lovely. I'm reaching back up again. And to the other side. And hand here. Notice that expansion. Keep that nice relaxed breath. Good. I'm reaching up again. Now bending forwards at the waist, at the hips, reaching forwards. Notice here if you're putting any tension on your neck. Make sure your neck is nice and relaxed. Reach forward, really straighten your back if you can, and then fold forwards, letting your arms, letting your top half of your body hang down. Release your arms, release your neck. Give your shoulders a little bit of a shake. If you're sat, you can just lean forward for this one. Just notice your breath. Notice how it feels. I think we did this one last week. This should feel quite familiar to you. If you'd like, put your hand on your lower back as you're leaning forward like this. And I want you to notice or feel and look for the sensation of expansion across your lower back as you continue to breathe. One more breath here, nice and big. And slowly to a count of 10, you're going to come up to a standing position. Your head will be the last thing to make it to an upright position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no rush, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half, and 3/4. Everyone's there, 10. Good, chin to your chest. And roll to the left. And if you'd like, put a hand on your head just to feel the more intense version of that stretch. If that's too much, that's fine, leave it out. And I'd like you, with your spare hand, imagine that it's extending down towards the floor, really giving you some intensity on that stretch. Nice. And release, chin to chest again. And nice and slowly to the other side. Again, if you'd like to put your hand there, that's fine. Feel your opposite arm extending down towards the floor. Pull your shoulder down towards the floor. Nice and intense. I love this stretch. Unless I have a cricked neck. It's not one I recommend. Good, chin to chest again. We're going to look up at the ceiling, but before you do that, make sure your jaw is nice and loose. Don't tense your jaw. Relax jaw, looking up at the ceiling. Go. Nice, chin to chest again, nice and slowly. And once more, up at the ceiling, go. Nice relaxed jaw. Keep breathing. And rolling the head to the left. And a full semicircle this time, if it's comfortable to do so. Rolling forwards, all the way across to the other side. And the exact opposite, rolling forwards, all the way across to the other side. We hold so much tension in our neck and shoulders, particularly if we're sat, and back to center, particularly if we're sat in front of a computer all day, which we have certainly been doing more of, haven't we? Though I hope lots of you are managing to spend a little bit more time outside. Good. Reach up one last time. See if you can grow by 3 feet, please. A physical impossibility, but we've never let the laws of physics stop us here at Stay at Home Choir, have we? Good. And relax. Oh, nice. Enjoy that stretch. Release your wrists for me, please. Do we use our wrists in singing all that much? Probably not. Other way. But let's release them anyway, because it's nice to release a bit of tension. Good. Keep breathing, please. As you breathe in, tense your shoulders up. Off we go. Tense everything else. Tense everything. Tense your back, tense your hands, tense your arms, tense your legs, tense your bottom, tense your toes, and breathe out, relax. We're going to do the same 2 more times. This time, I'd like you to really notice any muscles in your body as you breathe out that might have been holding tension beforehand, before we do this exercise. For me, I often hold my shoulders up ever so slightly throughout the day. And whenever I do this exercise, I notice, oh, I've just released my shoulders. Let your body release that tension. This isn't about doing this exercise. This exercise is about letting your body do things, not actively doing anything. Breathing in, tense your shoulders up, go. Tense everything, really, really squeeze. Really, really squeeze until you regret coming to my rehearsal today. Really squeeze and breathe out, release. Lovely. Once more of that. Notice any muscles that feel particularly relaxed after this. Hyper awareness. For me, I'm very focused on tension around my throat and my shoulders today. Usually it's my knees and my lower back. Breathing in, go. Last one, breathe in, really, really squeeze, really squeeze. And that's enough, breathe out, relax. Lovely. Notice how you're standing, please. Give your knees a wiggle. Give your hips a wiggle. I always joke that this is like going skiing. And then I follow that up with a joke of, can you tell I've never been skiing? I did once. I fell over a lot. Good. Give your knees a wiggle. Your feet should be roughly shoulder width apart. Too much and it'll feel a bit uneven. Too close together, and if someone comes along and pushes you, you'll fall over. You should feel nice and grounded. Good. Wiggle your hips this time. Draw horizontal circles with your hips. Martin's already done this week with me. Hey, Martin. Good. And the other direction. Lovely. Very nice. Good. And with your whole body. I'm trying to go slowly so we don't overheat. I won't do much more than this. Good. Keeping breathing. And that's enough. Always feet shoulder width apart. And I want you to imagine we're just going to take 3 breaths with our one hand on our lower support muscles, just sitting beneath our belly button, and another hand in our side. You can either put your hand like this, or my usual one is my thumb. 3 breaths in your own time, please. As you breathe, I'd like you to imagine now that you are breathing through the soles of your feet. That's a weird one. You're breathing through the soles of your feet. Of course, that's a physical impossibility, but again, we don't let the laws of biology stop us here at Stay at Home Choir. Breathing through the soles of your feet, not letting your breath rise up. It's a nice low and supported breath. 3 breaths, nice and deep through your feet in your own time. Off we go. Good. I'm going to turn on my original sound. Repeat after me, please. Go. Lovely. If you're sat, please make sure you're sat on the front of your chair, or at least in a way that you're not tempted to lean back. If you're stood, just notice that you're not locking your knees. Just be aware of that today. That's your task. Go. Lovely. Go. Lovely. Could we just very gently, this doesn't need to be too athletic, just swing left and right so you're not holding any tension. I just like go. Switch arms. Go. Lovely. You can stop, thank you. It's like the stay-at-home golf tournament. That's a really nice exercise if you're ever feeling a little bit tense, just to release a little bit, because we often hold ourselves, don't we? Again, with all the COVID, you know, sitting in front of computers far more often as well. But as singers, we tend to like to hold ourselves. We have our music, we're looking very earnest. This can just help remind ourselves that we want this nice released, open feeling. Lovely. You've seen someone across the road and you just want to say hello to them. Hey! Off you go. Hey! Feel that from here, not here. If we're shouting over long distances, we don't think, how do I do this? How do I shout? Oh, I need to put this here. I need to breathe. And I need to go, hey. It's not that controlled. It's primal voice. Hey, go. Hey, complete from a totally emotional perspective. You've seen an old friend that you've not seen in years. Hi. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lovely. I'm going to turn my mic down because I can see a red light blinking in front of me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lovely. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. It's too early for Christmas, isn't it? I won't make a Santa Claus joke, though I suppose I just did. Hee, hee, hee. Hee, hee, hee. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh. And I'm gonna acknowledge the fact that I cracked wonderfully on that high note. Then, if you crack, that's fine in a warm up, not a problem at all. A crack is actually a really good example of a lack of bad tension in the voice. It's not always an excuse if you're doing it in a gig. But your voice cracking is an example of actually you've set things up correctly, you've just gone a little bit too high. More often than not all the time, but lovely. Let's please move on to some vowels. Now, before we work on the Latin, I'm actually going to steal this one from Graham. We have, in Latin, I, E, A, O, U. Go. I, E, A, O, U. Nice, open, Italianate vowels. Those are pretty much the only vowels you will need for this. You'll be able to listen to this through the learning tracks, but I, E, A, O, U. Go. I, E, A, O, U. U, O, A, E. U, O, A, E. Notice now where your tongue moves and how the space in your mouth changes as we go through these vowels. The placement in our mouth changes depending on the vowel we're using. I, E, A, O, U. Go. I, E, A, O, U. So the sensation of where this vowel is coming from within your mouth will change. E is very far forward in the front of the face. U feels very far back in comparison. Something to be aware of. Not something I'm going to talk about a huge amount, but it's an interesting thing to be aware of. Placement, where these vowels feel like they're coming from. Could we now transition between those vowels as smoothly as possible? I, E, O, U. Go. I, E, O, U. We'll do it in reverse. U, O, E. Go. U, O, E. Now notice, if you are creating a little blip in between each one, as if you're going U, O, E. See what you can do to smooth that out. The movement between each vowel should be nice and smooth, nice and relaxed, so you get this sensation of one long uninterrupted vowel without these hard changes. E, O, go. E, O. I've just seen in the chat, you will get overtones, yes. Those of you interested in the technique, you can play with this and really push the resonance in your face. and get all sorts of weird sounds coming out. So I do encourage you to play with your voice. One more time, we'll do it backwards. Go. Lovely. I really love this this way of approaching vowels because it can help us with that legato. We so often think legato is about support, support, support. But if we can't transition between vowels nice and effectively, we'll never get a true legato, even if the muscles are doing what they should be doing. This is going to come in really helpful for some of these really long phrases. Amplius lava me ab iniquitate. We really want that legato. Take a seat if you wish. Remain standing if you'd like to. Great. So, before we do our first sing through, let's take a quick look at the score. Those of you that did Graham's session, he did a really wonderful session of giving you a little bit of heads up of what's coming. But let's just start with this. So, the first thing that may well stick out to you is that we don't really have bar lines in this piece. Renaissance music didn't have bar lines. They hadn't been invented yet. Singers would sing all of their parts from an individual part book. You would only know your part. You'd have no idea what your colleagues were going to do, and it would be a surprise, and you'd have to just try and make it work. Now that would be one heck of a challenge over Zoom. So we've given you the full score. Aren't we nice? But yes, looking at the end of the first bar, you'll notice there's just that little line in the middle of the stave. It's a sort of half bar line, or measure line, if you will, those of you in the States. Those are just to give us an indication of where our 4 in a bar finishes. Now, we're not in 4/4, we're in 4/2, which means 4 minims in a bar, or 4 half notes in a bar. Have I got that wrong? Correct me in the correct me in the chat if I've got it wrong. I'm so unused to the American terms. Apologies. Was it half notes? I'm getting a thumbs up from Deb. Thank you, Deb. Thanks, Frank, as well. Brilliant. So yes, we've got 4 of those in a bar. So it looks like all of these phrases are really, really slow, but we can actually sing them as fast as we like. Now, Renaissance music is so often about your own singular line, and it's really difficult to find the text stress. So to start, I'd like to look at the text, please. Let's look at it. I have it up here, but this is available on the website as ever. If you go to Stay at Home Choir and log in, you'll be able to see that we have a score and we have the text. So here is the text for you. Let's just take a quick look. I'm not going to read the entire thing like this because, of course, we do have the learning tracks, but we'll just do the first couple of verses just to get our brain into Latin mode, I think is probably a good way to do this. So, repeat after me, please. Miserere mei. Go. Miserere mei. Deus. Deus. Secundum maniam. Secundum maniam. Misericordiam. Misericordiam. Tuam. Tuam. So you'll notice all the vowels we did 30 seconds ago, that's all we're using in this. There's no strange vowels going on. They're very open, very sort of intuitive the way you look at it. Next verse. Et secundum multitudinem. Et secundum multitudinem. Multitudinem, not multitudinem. Multitudinem. Repeat that. Go. Multitudinem. Next line. Be aware, whenever you see a T-I-O, it's tio. Miserationum. Go. Miserationum. You might want to underline that in your copy. I'll do that one more time. Miserationum. Miserationum. Tuarum. Tuarum. Good. This should feel vaguely familiar. Anyone who's spoken any Italian, or if you're fluent, this will feel quite. The text stress will feel very similar. Of course, very Italian Latin is what we're going for, not Germanic Latin. I'm sorry. Dele iniquitatem meam. Go. Dele iniquitatem meam. Good. We'll do one more verse. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco. Let's look at that last word. Cognosco. Cognosco. One more time. Cognosco. Good. And again, nice and open vowels. Let's finish this verse. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Go. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Lovely. I won't spend any more time going through the entire thing just because it's quite a long text and I'd like to get to some singing, as I'm sure you all do. But this translation is available on the website. Do download it, familiarize yourself with it, and of course the pronunciation is in all of our learning tracks as well. The text here differs from the score. Oh no. Uh-oh. Thanks for the heads up there, Dave. I will double check that. Please stick with the score. I'll make sure the translation is updated. So many different parts to this edition. It breaks my brain slightly. There we go. I said it. Lovely. Rolled R's. Good question. Personally, I'm not so keen on the miserere mei. They can be flicked slightly, but it's not miserere me. So some of you will have that as a habit ingrained, and I will forgive you with time. Please don't worry. But nice little flicky R's in this case. Let's please, I'm going to play the entire thing. Let's sing all the way through. Then we'll start to break it down. You'll notice you've got 4 verses and a solo verse. We've got verse 1, 5, 17, 19, and 20. So before we do that, if you've printed your score, I'd suggest you do what I've done. Whenever we get to a solo verse, stick a large red cross through it. There is no shame in putting abhorrently large markings on your score. I do it all the time. In fact, I quite often write 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2 over my scores. So we all do it. If it's useful, stick it in the score. Get used to writing things in your score. Here we go. Let's have a full sing through. Here are your starting notes. If my iPad doesn't go to sleep. There's a G and there's a D. I beg your pardon. There's a G and there's a B flat. Here we go. Join in with the clap as well. You know how it goes, everyone. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum, dele iniquitatem meam. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco, et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Soli peccavi et malo coram defeci. Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas enim in iniquitatibus conceptus sum, et in peccatis concepit me mater mea. Domine labiam meam aperies, et os meum annunciabit laudem tua. Quoniam si voluis sacrificium dedis, holocaustis non Sacrificium Deo Spiritus contribulatus, cor contritum et humiliatum Deus non despicies. Benigne fac Domine, in bona voluntate tua. Ut edificentur muri, Tunc acceptabis sacrificium justitiae, oblationes et holocausta. Tunc imponens super altare tuum vitulos.
And breathe, everyone. What a piece. What a sing, isn't it? So let's answer just a couple of things before we go on. So tenors, I'm afraid in the solo verse, for the recording at least, yes, you will be tacit, you will be silent, I'm afraid. By all means, do learn it. It's a lovely part to sing, but unfortunately Allegri just didn't write it for tenors, so my apologies. Yes. Please note, on that recording, it's now been updated. You'll hear right at the very end, the bass two parts have accidentally been switched. This is a mind-blowingly difficult piece to turn into a virtual choir recording, and we've already had a little bit of that difficulty. It will all be updated. Please don't worry. It is being done as we speak. Oh, I've just had a negative COVID test through. Isn't that wonderful? Thank you. Oh, I get a round of applause. Isn't that nice? So let's please. I will go over both. So for the verses that we have, the notes are almost identical every single time. So what I will do is I will go through those verses in a moment, and I will sing the bass part. I will sing the tenor part all the way through to help you with learning the notes. And I'll do that on two separate verses so we can get a handle on the text as well. But before we do that, I'd like to look, please, at verse 2, which is the first time we get this chant. The chant verse. So this is on page 2. Et secundum multitudinem miserationem tuarum Dele iniquitatem meam. Take a quick look at this. Take 6.5 seconds to just familiarize yourself with the text, please. That's quite enough of that. Thank you. Look at the notes. Now, it is not strict quavers. It's one of the best ways we can notate this because it sort of feels like it, but we then push and pull the tempo. But look above the text. You'll notice these tenuto markings. Now, the reason we've added these in is to show you where the text stress is. Now, whenever we're singing a line, we talk so often about the text and the importance of it and where the important syllables are. A really good speaker will emphasize certain parts of the words, and if they suddenly start emphasizing things in the wrong places, you'll notice that something feels really wrong. So our job is to make sure we emphasize the text in the correct places. So I'm going to read just a little bit to you. Notice where the text stress falls. Et secundum multitudinem. Your turn. Et secundum multitudinem. And can you feel there's a lilt is the wrong word, but there is a sense of journey there. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum. Go. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum. Tuarum. Ah. Not tuarum. We're not very posh British. Tuarum. Tuarum. Go. Tuarum. Enjoy that R vowel. It's I've just woken up from a lovely sleep, and I'm a Disney character that's been asleep for 50 years. What is that? That's Sleeping Beauty, isn't it? Male or female, doesn't matter. It's that feeling rather than tuarum. Oh, we're singing this again. It's not that feeling. This has to be the most exciting chant you've ever done. The whole text. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum. Go. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum. Good. Dele iniquitatem meam. Dele iniquitatem meam. And you'll notice in both of these bars, we have dotted quavers at the end. Those last, the final two notes of each phrase are ever so slightly lengthened. So we've put that in the dotted quavers for you. Let's sing this, please. We'll sing it once, and then let's talk about the risks. The risks of chant. We're a dangerous choir, aren't we? Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum. Dele iniquitatem meam. Once more, your turn. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum. Dele iniquitatem meam. So there's a risk. Let's talk about the risks here. It can feel very robotic. There's going to be a little bit of roboticness you'll notice in the tracks just because we have to record to a preset rhythm. So it's going to feel a little bit weird. But what I'd like you to find within those confines is the natural way to sing it. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum is not it. Et secundum miserationum tuarum. Your voice should be crescendoing and decrescendoing away from those important syllables, so we really get this sense of phrase, this sense of an actual sentence rather than just a robotic voice singing back on your recording. Second risk. There's lots of risks with chant. We're on a repeated note. For every voice part that exists, no matter how good you are, how professional or how beginner you are, the risk with repeated notes is that we pull flat. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum. It just happens. It's the difficulty of re-engaging all of those notes. And I've used this image before. Rather than singing this note up here and holding it in tune, the feeling and the sensation and the image that I'd like you to have in your head is this one of skipping stones or stepping stones across a river. Et secundum multitudinem miserationum. You're landing on top of the note. Each time it's reiterating and you're above the note. You're not reaching for it. It's not a high note for any of you. It might be for some of the very lowest basses in the room, but even then, that's only the smallest excuse. It's well within your ability. Tuarum, we've already talked about the vowel. Tuor is going to pull it flat. Tuor is going to keep it nice and bright. So whenever we get that R vowel, I want to see it in your faces. Obviously, we're not doing video for this, but I want to. I'll be able to hear it in your recordings if you haven't gone tuarum. It'll be so obvious, I promise. So there we are. 3 things. Don't let it pull flat. Don't feel the phrase, feel the sentence, give it organic meaning within it, and make sure when we jump to that raised note that it's nice and bright, and again we're landing on top of it. Good. Let's look at the second chant. I won't do all of them today. I'll talk about how you can go and practice those separately in a second. Quoniam. Let me just keep up with the chat. Do we all sing both choirs 1 and 2? No, you sing choir 1 all the way through. Choir 2 will be stay-at-home choir, but we're doing that separately. We didn't think it was fair to ask all of the sopranos to sing all of the top Cs. We thought that was a little mean, so we're splitting it up. We are also getting in some guest soloists for that, and we absolutely will keep you posted of updates. Absolutely. Verse 4, please. Quoniam. Take even fewer seconds this time, 3.5 seconds, just to read through the text. Good. A, I, U, E, O. Nice and open vowels. Repeat after me, please. Quoniam iniquitatem. Go. Quoniam iniquitatem. It should feel again like there's this little lilt, almost like you're in zero gravity and you're jumping. Quoniam iniquitatem. You're on these stepping stones. I don't know why you're in somewhere with zero gravity and stepping stones, but there we go. Quoniam iniquitatem meam. Go. Quoniam iniquitatem meam. Ego cognosco. Ego cognosco. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Go. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Let's sing it, please. Quoniam. See if you can sing it in time with me. See if we can feel that feeling together. Off we go. Breathe with me. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco, et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Let's do it one more time. See if you can fix any mistakes you might have made. Quoniam. Breathe with me. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco, et peccatum meum contra me est semper. Good. Now, if you can really employ that feeling of phrasing, making sure it doesn't pull flat and keeping the brightness and the openness of those vowels, that's going to give so much more life to these chant phrases. So often when the Miserere is recorded or performed, it becomes this robotic chant. Quoniam iniquitatem me. And I can see why. It was done in a religious context. It was very often done like that. In fact, lots and lots of church worship, particularly I think in Germany, do use these very static, equal weighted syllables in lots of chant. In this case, I'd really like to have that sense of phrase. It's not that it's not genuine, either of those options, but we're going to go with a nice phrase. Let's go back to the beginning, please. Let's get these notes down. Mi, mi. Now, in your head, I would like you to have this beat. Zere, re, me, de. But you should have this little drummer in the back of your head. It's not this strict robotic metronome like this one here. It is this drummer with feeling. This is not a meaningless text. This is a hugely important text. I'll come to that in a second. But I want you to have this drummer that's constantly just giving you that pulse, and it feels organic and alive. Let's have a sing through, please. I'm going to sing the bass part. Let's just do an a cappella version of this. I'm going to sing the bass part for the entirety of verse 1. I will switch, don't worry, tenors, I will sing your part as well. Mi, mi. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Miserere mei, Deus, secundum maniam misericordiam tuam. Hum your next note, please. Good, I can see some nods. Good, I can see a few people who might need to practice that one with the track. Do we sing quo and qui like quo and qui, or the quo and... Good question, Wolfram. It is the Italian Latin, please. So it is quo, not quo. Those of you that have done German Latin before would be used to quoniam and quitolis. It is quo this time. As you would read it if you were reading it in English, as it were. We are doing the Italianate Latin, hence the very open vowels as well. Though I do love German Latin. I do love German Latin, but it does make singing in Italianate Latin very hard. So good luck, Wolfram, and anyone else who's familiar with it. Good. Sorry, Jamie, the laptop shut down. I may have to come out. That's absolutely fine, Michael. Good luck. I hope you've made it in. Let's please. Same again. But before I do that, I'd like to talk about the last 2 bars of that first verse for us. You'll notice we have this note with 2 lines either side of it, which is a little bit unfamiliar to lots of you. This is either known as a long or a breve. It is effectively just an entire bar for us. It is 4 minims. It is a full breve. It is not a semi-breve, which is the one that most of us will have seen in 4/4. It is a full bar. Diam 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is just a whole bar. There we go. Let's go back, please. Let's sing that again. Again, I'm going to ask you to pause on your note at the beginning of the chant. There is the G basses. There is your B flat tenors. I'm feeling very bassy today, so let's hope I don't crack. G, B flat. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Miserere mei Deus, secundum maniam misericordiam tuam. Pause on the next note. There is your B flat. Yes, Deb, I saw that. Good. Brilliant. Good. So those of you thinking, oh, I'm not sure how on earth I'm going to get that note, I would suggest going and finding the learning video and practicing that little gap. Sing the last 2 bars and then pause on the first note, then hit play on the track and see if you got it right. Once you've done that a few times, it'll click, I promise. Good. Let's talk about the vowels again. Have a guess what I'm about to say for the last bar. Answers on a postcard, please. Tuam. Absolutely not. Tuam. It's the ah again. It's so easy on any static note and basses. This does apply to your part as well. But on the first line, it's so easy to sit on that note and think of ourselves as simply a synthesizer. Simply a synthesizer. That's quite hard to say. That's a good tongue twister. We are more than a synthesizer. We have text. We have life. We have phrasing that we can give. So whenever we get a long note held at the end, while the rest of the choir are finishing off their florid phrases, don't just sit there. Take responsibility for the engagement and the excitement behind that note. Let's move to the second verse, please. We'll do exactly the same thing. Looking at the first bar of this is on page 3. This is verse 5. We've just finished. Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. There is a G. Could you hum your next note, please? Basses. Oh, go away, Alexa.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I'm not sure I understand.
No. My Siri and Alexa are trying to join in. Stop. Thank you. Basses, you should have been on a G, and tenors, you should have been on a B flat. Thanks, everyone. The stay-at-home virtual assistant choir. Let's have a go. I'm going to sing the tenor part first, then I'll do the bass part. We'll do the same again. Nice bit of a cappella practice. I'll give you the bar of chant. Okay? Et peccatum meum contra me est semper. And tibi soli peccavi et malum corante feci. Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas cum Lorna, I could see in your face then for the final note that you had this lovely brightness. Everything I just said about verse 1 and that final note, keep that brightness, keep that engagement for the final note. It'll keep it bright. It'll keep it from falling flat. This piece goes flat so often. I think my record in a performance is a minor third flat, which we were all quite tired. It had been a long day. It wasn't my fault. It was the poor soprano. Maybe it was intentional. Good. So let's look at that first line again. Now, I'd suggest you listen to the learning track for all of these lines. That is not a helpful way to see a bar, because it is not exactly equal, just like the chant. Tibi soli peccavi et malum. I'd like you to think, please, that the second bar is really the first bar where we get that 1, 2, 3, 4 feeling. This first line should almost feel like part of the chant. We're just chanting in harmony. That's all that's happening. There's your G. There's your B flat. I'm going to sing the bass part this time. Straight in this time, please. 1, 2, 3. Tibi soli peccavi et malum coram te feci. Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas cum I caught myself then. I almost went into autopilot on my penultimate note and I had to catch myself and re-engage the note. It happens to all of us. Don't switch off. Lorna, you're absolutely right. Staggered breathing, please. These are really, really long phrases. Breathe where you need to, but whenever you're stagger breathing, don't breathe in the obvious place. For instance, looking at the bottom of page 3 on the bass part, cum Judica might seem to be the obvious place. Cum Judica would be the better place to breathe if you're going to stagger breathe. Breathe where you don't think other people will breathe. The law of numbers, with 2,000 people singing this, someone's going to breathe there. There's only so many notes. But breathe where, if you were in a choir, you'd think, my neighbour's probably not going to breathe there, so I'll breathe there. If you need to miss out a note, that's absolutely fine. Good. Let's go right to the end. We will have a sing through, please don't worry. Let's look at verse 19, at which point all the sopranos of the choir start panicking. This is my favourite verse in the entire piece. Isn't that geeky? I always get excited when we get to this one. Good. We've covered the notes of everything that comes before this. The notes in the verses are the same every single time. Do listen to those learning tracks to really bed them in, and you'll be able to add the text on top. Let's look at this, please. Repeat after me. Benigne fac Domine. Go. Benigne fac Domine. In bona voluntate tua. In bona voluntate tua. Tu of tua is where I'd like you to aim for the second half of this phrase. That doesn't mean remove the stress from the syllables prior to it, before it, but it does mean in bona voluntate tua. There's still a meaning, but that's the moment where we get that lovely harmony, and the sense of pulse comes back in. Tenors, why don't you join us for this, because we may as well all sing it together. I'm going to sing the bass part of this verse. See if you can follow along with me. Benigne fac Domine. Or tenors, if you're feeling really adventurous, why not just harmonise along with the alto part if you feel like it. But let's all sing the bass part, unless you're so inclined, tenors. Benigne fac. Here we go. Benigne fac Domine. In bona voluntate tua si ion ut edificentum mori Jerusalem. Carry on in harmony this time. There's your G, there's your B flat. To the end, please. Tunc acceptabis sacrificium justitiae, oblationes et holocausta. Slower. Tunc imponent super altare tuum vitulos. Hey, good sight reading, everyone. You sound fabulous on this end. That's a joke. Let's look at the very final line, please, from bar 85. This is the last line for choir 1. Let's look at the tenor part. Tunc, tunc. I'll sing the tenor part. Basses, you can sing along. 3, 4. Tunc imponent super altare tuum vitulos. Repeat after me. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Lovely. Not virtulos. Virtulos. You've not lost anything. Virtulos. Speak it. Virtulos. Feels very strange doing that kind of thing in Latin, doesn't it? Nice and bright. Again, same thing. So, tenors and basses, we've covered every note. I'm aware of the time. I'm very happy to run over. We will do a full run. Apologies that we're at time. Keeping everything bright. Now, I'd like to add a caveat, because I say this brightness and openness and engaged and smiliness a lot. It's my thing. And Tori talks about it a lot as well. What that doesn't mean is forcing it. We've all been to parties or drinks do's or had people over to the house where by the end of the evening we're just, yeah, please go home. I want to go to bed. Yeah, okay, lovely. That's great. I've heard that story already. And you can tell it's fake. That doesn't mean squish your face into a fake smile and hope that it works. It's not fake it till you make it. It is find your own emotional version of the phrase. Find your way of telling the story in order to find that. That's what makes it genuine. That's the same reason we can tell how a smile is real and when it's not. I haven't spent a huge amount of time on the translation of the text of this. By all means, do go and read it. Whether you are religious or not, we are telling a story, arguably quite a famous one at that. Our job as singers, as storytellers, I said this last week, didn't I? Our job is to communicate that. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. Our job is to do justice to the words and the meaning and the intention in front of us. That's what we're doing as storytellers. That's our goal. And if you can find the way for you to really mean something with those words, mean it for someone else's benefit if it's not something that is hugely meaningful for you, that's what's going to give us that best approach and that best sound. With that said, why don't we stand up? Let's do a sing through from the beginning all the way through. There's your G, there's your B flat. Don't worry too much in the verses we haven't worked on today. Don't worry too much about the Latin, I beg your pardon. I'd like you to focus on getting the length of phrase and getting those lines. Notes and length of phrase is your goal. You can add in the words later. Now, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to clap. So make sure your score is somewhere you can pick it up nice and quickly. Here we go. Full run through just to finish off. Here we go. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Et secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum, dele iniquitatem meam. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco, et peccatum meum contra me est semper.
Tibi soli peccavi et malo coram defeci. Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas, cum
Ecce enim in iniquitatibus conceptus sum, et in peccatis concepit me mater mea. Domine labiam meam aperies, et os meum annunciabit laudem tuam. sacrificium Deo Spiritus contribulatus, cor contritum et humiliatum Deus non despicies.
Benigne fac Domine, in bona voluntate tua, ut edificentur muri, tunc acceptabis sacrificium justitiae, oblationes et holocausta. Tunc imponens super altare tuum vitulos.
Oh, isn't it great? Isn't it great? Brilliant. Tens and basses. My apologies for running over, but I hope that's given you plenty of things to think about. Now, there's one final thing in that last verse. Vituos. Just enjoy singing any semi-occluded vocal tract syllables. Enjoy that. What a wonderful piece. I hope that's given you plenty of things to go away and think about. Take your time on the video with the text. You don't have to get everything right immediately. You can really build each layer up as you go. Familiarize with yourself with the written text. Rosephine Powell talked wonderfully about how she does that as a composer for the Powell. Do the same with this. Familiarize yourself with the text and the meaning and the story that we're trying to get across. Then build in those notes, sing it all to an ooh, if you like. Then gradually begin to layer it up, and it'll feel, I hope that'll get you the way there. I'm really excited to hear what 2,000 people singing the Miserere is going to sound like. I think it's probably a world first with this kind of number of people, which coincidentally, I'm pretty certain this is the first ever virtually recorded album in the world. So we might need to speak to the Guinness Book of Records for something like that. But there we go. Not sure. I'll look into it. Tens and basses, the best sections. Thanks for joining me again. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. I will see you at whatever the next rehearsal is. Have a lovely weekend. See you very soon. Bye.
Right, Jamie, I've got to catch up with this, mate.